Shalom. The Judea Black Shalom L'Chaim Purified Trigger Water. They got it. It's up there. You already know what it is. You know what it did. You know what it's doing. I'm getting to a point, putting a whole bunch of information up on this channel as I could. And let's get into this. So we talked about the final solution, the word ghetto, origins of the places of ghetto, and all of that shit. Let's talk about how America normalized the final solution. Okay? All right. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Cue that music I like.
Every day I piss money away. I'm a material slave. Trying to polish this ball and this chain.
Food here, but the bathrooms are ghetto as hell.
So ghetto.
Oh my god, yes. Like they still have those like double faucet sinks. Whoa, that is so ghetto.
I hate the word ghetto. I absolutely detest its use, what it's used for, and what it stands for. It's used way too often to describe an area, an item, a building, but more specifically, an area of land in your neighborhood. It's a word that over the course of 500 plus years has evolved uglier and uglier. But to really understand the meaning of the word, you gotta go back, way back to 1516. Venice, Italy, mostly ran by Christians, started shuffling its Jewish residents into an area known as New Ghetto, in which the word ghetto derived from a Venetian verb, guitar, meaning pour or to cast. This was the earliest links of the word that specifically aimed towards Jewish people, even though as years gone by and the freedom of religious persecution for Jewish people still continued to be fought, the word stuck around and even traveled to the United States and more common, the ghettos of New York. In World War II, Nazis forced concentration camps and imprisoned Jewish people, and for those lucky enough to avoid the concentration camps were forced into ghettos, in which they starved, dehydrated, and died. Around 1934, a part of the New Deal, America was practicing a horrific real estate law known as redlining.
Sean Gallagher talked to a historian and homeowner on why the practice of redlining is one of the many factors that led to Milwaukee labeled the most segregated city in America.
Based on the statistics, a white family is more likely to buy this house than a black one. Nearly 100-year-old discriminatory lending practices called redlining are influencing that today.
When people purchase homes, that's building generational wealth.
He says in the 1930s, lenders gauged the risk level of home loans. The red areas were deemed most risky and were almost always black communities.
And today, redlining is still being felt, the effects of it.
That mapping designed to reignite the economy in the 1930s had a profound effect on policing and issues that have led to protests happening now. It's called redlining when the government signaled to banking that lending in certain areas is a bad idea. Hancher said the problem is those red lines were consistently drawn around black communities and created separate cities within a city. Made it easier for some to view those redline communities as problem areas and the people there as bad.
Which, due to segregation and Jim Crow laws, disqualified African Americans from living in white suburban neighborhoods and forcing them to live in urban housing projects, mostly older, less maintained properties. For example, in Orlando, examples of the effects of redlining still exist, as Division Street was a literal street marker for areas that were redlined for segregation purposes. Areas such as Washington Shores, Paramore, and Pine Hills was packed with a heavy black population. In fact, you can track it in your city currently by seeing which areas were redlined by the description of the city that is most talked about as the bad part of town. That is an example of redlining, as well as what redlining can do, where you're looking at black neighborhoods, and to keep people from going to those neighborhoods, you want to tell them this is the bad part of town, so don't go there.
Like, oh my God, this fax machine's so ghetto. How can a fax machine be motherfucking ghetto? A fax machine?
In 1965, Kenneth Clark wrote Dark Ghetto, which described the effects of redlining. Most areas seemed bleak, lost, and abandoned. Because of this book and its ties to redlining, the association of ghetto and Jews quickly shifted to ghetto and black. These matters quickly exaggerated the matter due to many reasons. One being Elvis Presley's In the Ghetto, which depicted black households in Chicago from an outside white perspective. Within 20 years, the word was embraced by black culture as a word used to describe the hard life as a black man, yet empowered of their roots. But this was short-lived. As of 10 years, it is still associated with black culture, yet it is still used as a verb to describe less than perfect ideals.
The email from her potential employer called that name
ghetto.
Quintella Fields recently started looking for a new job and applied through a third-party site at Mentality Health in Brookfield. The quick response looked legit until she got to the line that said, "Unfortunately, we do not consider candidates that have suggestive ghetto names."
They say that, so I may say, if they say to me, "Oh, you're from the ghetto," like, okay, well, what do you mean by that?
In 2010, a common practice for white communities was to have a ghetto party, which they would appropriate black culture, sometimes use of blackface with black paraphernalia. Knowing that ghetto is associated with the worst parts that created death, despair, frustration, inequality, and racism for both Jews and blacks, people will often continue to use this word without the knowledge that this word is associated with the most disgusting and diabolical times of racist America. So next time you visit a store and you really don't understand how to describe it, I implore you, please think twice about the words you use to describe the store you're in.